If someone's got, a club and they're gonna beat you in the face, and you say, I will not move, I will stand here and let you club me to death, then you're gonna die. That's it, you're dead. So now everything you stood for is dead, and you're dead, and you've only got 10 people in your group because you're first starting out, and they just beat the shit out of you and you're dead. So let's talk about Charlottesville while I draw tears and wounds and all that battle scar stuff. So I'll just quickly run through what happened in Charlottesville for anybody who is living under a rock. So on Friday, August 11th, there were marches at the University of Virginia where a lot of white supremacists were carrying torches and yelling out things like blood and soil and white lives matter. And this was in protest of the taking down of a Confederate monument of the General Robert E. Lee. So after all of those marches where people were wearing khakis and wearing torches, the next day there was another protest, which was a Unite the Right rally, and it was again to protest the removal of the statue, which is now, I think, one of the biggest white supremacist congregations that we've ever had, from what I've been reading. So that sparked a counter protest against the white nationalists and the Nazis, and that's when everything went haywire. So you can of course look this stuff up if you want more details about everything that happened. Pretty much everyone knows that one woman died who was hit by a car, and I think 19 people were injured. So you can definitely read up on that if you want. Just moving forward with all that, that's just a quick rundown of what happened and why. So I'm making this video because I want to address a lot of things that I haven't really seen too many people talking about, or things that I haven't seen anyone talk about. Now, as you can see in the title of this video, I want to talk about how we make progress. Incidents like these are how we make progress. I wait for things like this to happen. At this point in my life, I've come to understand how people work in general, and what happened was horrible. I'm not saying, oh my God, I'm so excited to see people die. Clearly it was horrible. I don't want to see anyone get hurt or anything like that. But at the same time, I still wait for desperate situations to take place in our country, because that's when people make decisions that actually change our society. So I don't necessarily wait for people to get killed. I wait for things to get serious. I wait for people to be stressed, for people to be desperate, because the problem with people is that people don't worry about things until it affects them. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because if we spent all of our time worrying about everyone and everything, we'd never be able to get anything done. We'd never be able to do our jobs. We'd never be able to do pretty much anything that has furthered the progression of humanity as a whole, because we'd be too busy worrying about everyone and everything all the time. So it's not necessarily a bad thing that people only worry about things when it affects them, but it still stands that something has to affect you, either on an emotional level or on a physical level, to the point where it's physically affecting your life and your livelihood before you actually do something about it. And now, because of all this, the reason why I wait for these things to happen is because, for example, look at the aftermath. Look at what happened as a result of these riots. All of the monuments are being taken down now, either through government action or by force from the citizens. Do you think that this would be happening if Hillary Clinton was president? Do you think this would be happening if Obama was president? No, he was president twice and these things didn't happen. None of this happened when Obama was president. None of this would happen if a Democrat was president. This wouldn't happen if a Republican was president. The Republicans hate Trump. He's a Republican, but he's not a Republican, if you understand what I'm saying. A lot of Republicans hate Trump. That's why their whole party is starting to implode on itself. You need someone who is racist and vile and says bigoted shit to motivate people enough to actually stand up against the government that is oppressing them. Now, going back to the idea that it's not necessarily a bad thing that people only worry about things when it affects them, there is still an issue, because the problem is people aren't affected enough. People are way too apathetic to the average struggles that are prevalent in their own society. So what I mean by that is, people's lives are personally being affected and they still do nothing about it. It's to the point where we actually have to have a desperational effect on our person, either emotionally or physically, before we do something about it. What it should be is that as soon as we see something heading in the wrong direction, we stand up. So for example, let's envision a world where we're making $21 an hour. Why do I say $21 an hour? Because that's actually what the minimum wage should be in this society. So pretend that you're making $21 an hour and you're working a regular job, and this year it's supposed to increase by 3%. Let's just say it's supposed to increase because that's the time that, inflation and all that other stuff. But instead, your politicians are telling you that they want to cut your wages by 0.3%, but for no good reason. They make up some excuse about war or whatever, but we already know that we have the biggest military in the world. So we know that that'll be a bunch of BS, but that's what they tell us. So in our society, that type of a scenario isn't a big deal. People aren't going to stand up against that. But in an ideal society, we need to evolve to the point where we can actually perceive things coming in advance. Because down the road, that 0.3% is going to become a 3%, which is going to become a 5%, which is going to become a 50%, and so on and so forth. And by the time you get done with it, we'll be making $7 an hour. So we need to be able to have the foresight to see that coming our way. Because if you give somebody an inch, they're going to take a mile. So if you see someone trying to take a little bit of what you have and you just let them do it, of course they're going to take more and more because people are greedy as fuck. So we not only need to be able to see in advance, but far in advance. We should be fighting from the very beginning as soon as we see that something's off. The problem is that no one is on the same page. You can have any movement in this world that you want, and it can be effective as long as you have three things. Everyone knows exactly what they're standing for, meaning that everyone is on the same page. Everyone is working towards the same goal. You need organization. So everyone is doing it in the way that they're supposed to. No one's falling out of line to reach this goal. And then you need numbers. If you have those three things, you can accomplish anything in this world. For example, can you imagine if 1 million people broke inside of the White House and said, we want Bernie Sanders as president. He's going to be the president now. And, so-and-so will be the vice president, or Jill Stein will be the president. Even Jill Stein. People can say, you're going to make Jill Stein the president now. They'll do it. If you have enough people, they're going to do it. There's a famous quote. It goes along the lines of, the only reason why we have an election every 4 years is because people go out and vote. That's it. If no one voted, we wouldn't have an election. Or the opposite, if people, instead of voted in a different way where they're like, this is going to happen, and I don't care what you say. There's 300 million people in America. You can easily get 1 million, 2, 3 million people together to do something. And when I say easy, I mean it's easy for something like that to be possible. To convince people to do it is another story because, again, we're not on the same page. We're not organized. We're constantly fighting with each other, just like with the Charlottesville thing. Everybody's constantly talking about this moral issue, these social problems, and we're not fixing the problem at hand. So on the bright side with this issue, even though we're not fighting against the lack of minimum wage or the lack of health care, the lack of jobs, and all the other stuff going on in our country, on the bright side, this shows proof to the fact that when you have someone who's that horrible in charge, it motivates people to stand up for what's right, which are why all of these statues are coming down now. So hopefully soon enough people can wake up to this, but I don't really think it's going to happen, and I'm going to address it later because people still don't get it. They still don't understand what it takes to really motivate people to do the right thing. So before I get to that, I'm going to touch on the idea of violent protesting because I'm just sick of this fucking subject. So I'm just going to address it now because, oh God, I've been watching so many videos before talking about this because I want to hear a bunch of different people's opinions, and there's just a few videos that I want to address. I've seen a bunch, but I'm not going to be here all day, so I'm just going to talk about the more well-known channels and more progressive outlets to give an example of just shit that people say that so on the idea of violent protesting, everyone keeps talking as if you can't be, we have this pacifistic approach to violence, and that is the most counterproductive thing you can do. So I'm going to lay out the biggest arguments that I keep hearing from people as to why you can't be violent when counter-protesting or protesting. So first reason is because people are like, well, it's not the right thing. You have to treat people how you want to be treated. Okay, but if someone's got, a club and they're going to beat you in the face, and you say, I will not move, I will stand here and let you club me to death, then you're gonna die. That's it, you're dead. So now everything you stood for is dead, and you're dead, and you've only got 10 people in your group because you're first starting out, and they just beat the shit out of you and you're dead. Okay, so you standing there and doing nothing when someone's beating the ever-loving hell out of you. Another argument is, oh, but most violent protests don't work. Yeah, and guess what? Most protests don't work. People keep forgetting that. Most protests don't work. It's not because they're violent, it's because when most protests take place, they're either small or they're disorganized or people are fighting for bullshit like we want transparency, like that. Like, that's what you're fighting for? Really? When people are dying of poisoned water? So, most protests don't work. That it's not because of the violence, okay? You can easily, please, just look up violent protests that were successful, and you'll find a bunch of them. For example, the most famous one off the top of my head is the Boston Tea Party. That was a riot. And that's one of the most famous violent protests that people always talk about. Or, for example, tearing down monuments is violent protesting. That's violent because it's rioting. You're destroying government property. But look at what happened. Is the government going to rebuild all those statues? No. Certain cities are joining along and doing it legally. So violent protests can work. Another argument that I keep hearing, and this is the biggest one, which is why I saved it for last. I might have forgotten a couple. It doesn't matter. Whatever argument people have, it can easily be debunked because the whole idea is shit anyway. The biggest argument I keep hearing is, well, if you're violent, then when it's reported in the media, people aren't going to want to be on your side because they're gonna try to equate the whole thing with false neutrality, and no one's going to help you out. Okay, again, guess what? Nobody's fucking helping you anyway. Have you seen the protests that have gone on in America where no one does a damn thing? Look at the No Dapple situation. Do you know how long those people were protesting? Did you see how many people ended up helping out? Like, I remember at one point, everyone was excited because I think they had like 3,000 people. 3,000 people in a country with over 300 million citizens, and you got 3,000 motherfuckers to help you out, and they were peaceful the whole time. They said we don't want to get violent, and they would have did that if their water was poisoned, because at that point they're like, fuck it, I'm gonna die. Going back to the whole idea of when you're desperate, then you do what needs to be done to get things done, when you should have been doing it in the first place. You shouldn't be waiting until you're about to die to stand up for your rights. We're waiting too long. So no one's helping you anyway. If you're being a peaceful protester, you have to get numbers in some sort of way, but you have to do that through convincing people. You can convince people to help you out violently or peacefully, but you need to be organized and you need to be convincing. Everyone needs to be on the same page. It doesn't matter how you get it done, as long as it's a bunch of you, as long as it's like hundreds of thousands of you at the least. Like, if you can't get 1 million people, at least get 100,000. At least get 10,000, for God's sake. If you can get that on your side, if you can get, 10,000 isn't really gonna help out, but my whole point is they didn't even get 10,000. They were happy about 3,000. If you could get 100,000 people to help you with something, that would definitely draw some attention for you. So even if it's violent, like, another thing people keep forgetting is that there's more of us than there are of them. There's more citizens than there are lawmakers who make the laws that we all follow. So it doesn't matter how many clubs, cannons they have, there's power in numbers. And you have to also remember the cops are scared as shit anyway, so they're not going to want to fight your ass if there's too many people and you're all ready to beat the shit out of them. They're beating the shit out of you anyway. Just to wrap it up before I move on, with violent protesting, you can get anything done through violence. You can get anything done through peace. You have to be able to execute it properly. That's all it takes. Most protests don't work, so stop giving me that bullshit. I live by a simple motto that I think works very well when it comes to when to be mean versus being nice and shit. I have 2 mottos. One is, if you're trying to convince someone of your ideals, you need to be respectful. No one gives a fuck if the cops listen. You're not trying to convince them. You're going to force them to do it. That's a different story. Try to be respectful if you want someone to listen to you, because the majority of people aren't going to fucking listen if you're being rude to them. I personally still hear people out when they are being assholes. Like, if you say something that makes sense, I'm like, okay, that made sense. But if you're not making sense, I'm not going to tell you you're making sense. I don't care if you got 10 dumbasses rallying behind your ass in my damn comments section. You're still not making sense. It doesn't matter how many idiots listen to you. Oftentimes, the majority of people believe the opposite of reality anyway. So if you got 100 fucking people on your side telling me that I'm biased for speculating, I'm not going to fucking listen to you. Okay, so I live by the motto of, if you're trying to convince someone, be respectful. Be respectful. Now, even though I try to listen to people who aren't respectful, most people don't. So be fucking respectful. Now, if you're not trying to convince them, say whatever the fuck you want. That's why you see I have some videos where I am being respectful, and then I have other ones where I'm not, because I'm not trying to fucking convince you. I might be trying to, like, make the people who are hurt by the topic feel better, or just sharing my opinion for people who are open to it. But if I'm trying to convince someone, I'll be respectful about it for sure. Second motto is that you should treat people how you want to be treated, of course, until people treat you a certain way, and then try to be a little bit better than them. Now, I know that if the majority of people did this, the world would be a much better place, because think about it. If someone is treating you how they want to be treated, and then you treat them like garbage, and then they respond to you but they're a little bit nicer than you, they're going in the right direction. So if everybody lived by that motto of trying to be a little bit better than the person who's being an asshole to them, you would always be improving by some degree. People don't do that. Instead, people take the opposite approach and go backwards and try to outdo you on your assholedness. Like, if you say fuck you, they'll start talking about your personal shit and hitting low blows and stuff, which is 10 times worse than telling somebody fuck you. So I bring this up because with protesting, even with protesting, you can be peaceful at first. That's fine. But when somebody is beating the shit out of you with a club, maybe it's time to defend yourself. I don't think that that's that big of a problem. If somebody is fucking surrounding a church, I think it's okay to beat the shit out of those people if they're threatening the people in the church. If somebody is hitting someone with a fucking car, I think it's okay to slash the car's tires. You're already going to get arrested anyway because you're protesting. That means you're prepared to get arrested. If you're going to protest in this country, even though that's one of our rights, we should be able to protest. In this country, you get arrested for it. So if you're going to get arrested anyway, slash their fucking tires. Get a bat and beat the shit out of their fucking car. Who cares? Or just throw a rock at it. The cops aren't going to catch you. You don't have to pay for the damages. They're going to be like, who the fuck threw it? Just be in the middle of the crowd and chuck a rock. At least one of those motherfuckers had to have had good aim. Like, come on. I saw a guy blowtorch somebody's fucking flag in one of the photos from the protest. My whole point is, do something. Don't just stand there and be like, oh yeah, I'm ready to die. Take me away. Why the fuck would you do that? Why the fuck you come out there if you're just gonna let people kill you to death? So, yes, being peaceful is nice. But if someone's beating you up and beating up your fellow protesters who are helping your ass out with this movement, and they're beating your children, if you brought your kids, who, you know, like grown kids, not like little babies, you know, or you brought like your friends, are you gonna stand there and let them beat your friends up? You're gonna let them slaughter your friends with shields and fucking tomahawks and shit or something? No, like, stand up against them. So, of course, I don't know. It was so stupid. Like, you have shields on with, like, khaki pants and torches and shit. Oh my god. It's just funny how people have to warp their own brains to make themselves, like, believe that they're, like, warriors to cover up the fact that they're cowardly assholes. So that's my whole opinion on that part. Let me move on so I can wrap this shit up. So to finish off that topic, we take a pacifistic approach to violence, and that is so counterproductive, because how the fuck are you going to get anything done if you just lay down and die? So in that case, most of those protests don't work either. So you need numbers, you need to be organized, and you need to be on the same page. My next point, I want to talk about how the whole point of the monuments were racist. Like, I can't believe people aren't on the same page with this issue. Honestly, it's common sense when you think about it, because you can't make the argument of, oh, this is like my sister's or my sister's friend's great-great-grandfather who fought in this war. Like, you can't say that. You can't make the argument of, oh, my dad fought in this war, so they put a statue up of him. Okay, replace that with some other racist fuck like Hitler. Oh my god, but Hitler was my great uncle, and he did a bunch of stuff, and he led a lot of people. What the fuck was his legacy, though? That's not a reason to make a statue of someone just because they died in a fucking war. You want to commemorate somebody, put the statue in your backyard. You want to commemorate somebody, you can get their fucking tombstone at a graveyard and go visit that bitch. But you putting a statue of a racist asshole on government property, we all knew that they were on the racist side of the war. So to put that on government property and expect for black people to pay for the very fucking statues that were their oppressors? What the hell is wrong with you? Yes, they need to be taken down. I don't care what you believe in with these statues. You want a statue, use your own fucking money and put one in your house. So, yes, those statues were racist. Again, if I say that my grandfather fought in a war, but he was fighting to murder every single fucking Chinese person that he saw, maybe he shouldn't get a statue position on government property. I think that I'm okay with him dying in darkness, into the darkness of history, and only being remembered as a racist asshole. That's his legacy. Every soldier doesn't deserve an honorable statue. So that whole idea is just perpetuating the notion that people, if you die in a war, you deserve a statue. No, what the fuck did you die for? And the other funny thing is they say like, oh, well, you know, this is our history. Like, you gotta, you know, this is our history. You can't take down our history. Do you not understand America's history? America's history is racist as fuck. Look at the American holidays. They're racist as fuck. Look at the national anthem. It's racist as fuck. Like, America's history is racist as fuck. So, again, like, I don't give a fuck if you want to commemorate your damn history. Like, again, put that shit in your house on your private property. You can be racist all by your lonesome. But I don't want to be around that shit. I don't think that we should be showing that stuff to the new generation saying, let's celebrate how racist we are. Like, get the fuck out. Moving on from that shit, when you look at the approach with the cops from Charlottesville, we all know what the cops are capable of. Okay? We all know that the cops, they will mow you down. But for some odd reason, in this situation, they did absolutely diddly dick. So when you look at Baltimore, or No Dapple again, using that example, or Ferguson, look what the fuck the cops are capable of, you know, with Occupy Wall Street. Look at all these cases, like, how fucked up the cops can be. Again, they have fucking tanks, sound cannons, I don't know, gas bombs, they have rubber bullets, and clubs, and tasers, and shields, guns and rifles and helmets and mace, and then the red orangish mace, dogs. Like, Jesus Christ, like the cops are ready to go at all moments to beat the shit out of anybody who gets in their way. But for some reason with this situation, cops didn't give shit. So with this protest, the cops were told to stand down. Like, everyone knows that. You can easily look it up. They were told to stand down, and mainly it's because it's simple divide and conquer. It was so that we could keep fighting with each other. I mean, look at the news now. Look at what the news is saying. Oh my God, look at how bad Republicans are. This isn't a Republican issue. This isn't because there's Republicans in this country. There's always going to be racist people. And it's, again, taking away from the problem that we have in the society. If anything, if anyone would take anything from this situation, everyone should be talking about the cops, honestly. Everyone should be talking about the fact that the police didn't do shit. We shouldn't even be discussing how racist everyone is. We know how racist everyone is. You should already know. If you're in America, you should know how racist America is. So we should be talking about the police and how they didn't do anything. We should be talking about the fact that, you know, or you can talk about the monuments, for example. That's fine, like, to take those down. But that should be the main focus, not vote Democrat in 2020. So they're making this about the Republicans, and I really hope that people don't go down this road. I really hope that people don't think, oh, now we gotta impeach Trump. But I said that I'd come back to it later, so we're here now. The problem with this is that I know people are thinking this. I watched a bunch of different videos. I saw a TYT video today right before making this shit. It was the most pretentious, aggressive ass, like, just rude fucking video. And, you know, I don't care if you want to be aggressive. Like, don't give me that shit about, oh, well, you know, everybody gets to be aggressive. I don't care if you want to be aggressive. My point is, you know, there's different types of aggression. There's different types of rudeness. There's context, motherfucker. So, you know, this guy's just like, oh, can you believe that 25% of these people in America, they will support Trump no matter what? It's up to the 70%. Instead of the 1/4 is racist, the 70% have to impeach him. And I'm just like, oh, geez. Like, this just makes me give up on humanity, honestly. You guys can't see the benefit of having Trump as president yet. Like, nobody sees it. Please do a simple Google search. Just do a simple Google search for me. Since you guys are so into politics and you do the fucking news, just look up Nixon is the most liberal president. Just look that up. Simple keywords and you'll find a bunch of shit as to why he's considered one of the most liberal presidents in recent times. Understand that when you have horrible people in office, progressive shit gets done because people can't stand how terrible the fucking world is, and they stand up against it because they're desperate and it's affecting their lives. Why the fuck, do you not know who the vice president is? Why the fuck would you want to impeach Trump? The Republicans hate Trump. Do you not see the Republican Party imploding? That's the thing people are not talking about. The Republican Party is imploding on itself. There's civil war in the Republican Party. And then you also have Democrats standing up against the Republicans. Do you know how easy it is to stand up against Trump? Do you realize he's not getting anything done? He can't get done anything he said he was going to do. Obama was able to get things done that Bush and all the Republicans could never have done in their life. Like with NAFTA or with the prison population. I think Obama deported more people than all of the previous presidents. So, if there was a Democrat in place, even a Democrat, that would make everything worse. Look at what happened with 8 years of a Democrat. And then before that was a Republican. And before that was a Democrat. And look at where we are. Now, if you want to talk about having someone like Bernie or Jill Stein as president, that's fine. I can understand that because you'll have a leader who's going to help you in that fight. That's fine. If FDR was running for president, that would be fine. But you wanting to impeach Trump because he's racist? Because he's racist and bigoted and because he has horrible values? Oh my God. So let me move on to the next thing I saw. So, another thing is, everybody keeps bringing up this example of, I think the ACLU it was, defending the KKK for protesting down the streets and shit. And it's like, okay, I understand. Everyone gets their freedom of speech. That's perfectly fine. That's fine. But the thing everyone keeps forgetting to talk about, and they keep saying, well, look at them, they defended the KKK, is the fact that they don't defend anyone else, though. Every single time a progressive group protests something, nobody gives a shit about them. Everyone is against them. They get arrested. They have no rights. But when the KKK does it, everyone fights for them. So the point that I'm making is that it's not racist to stand up for a racist freedom of speech. That's not racist. What's racist is if you're only going to stand up for a racist freedom of speech and no one else. What's bigoted, even if you look at it on the opposite side, it is bigoted if you're only going to stand up for the rights of people who you agree with, and people who you don't are fucked. Everyone should have freedom of speech, and people keep leaving this out. I'm sick of seeing this shit getting reported. People are praising the ACLU. What about everybody else? Just like with this protest, nobody got brutalized by the cops here, and you shouldn't be getting brutalized for no good reason. But these people had guns and torches, and they're running people over. They killed someone. I saw a comment where people were like, no, there was violence on both sides. And I saw this comment that was like, the racist killed someone, you fucking moron. It's not equal. And I'm just like, okay. But basically, yeah, when you have a situation like that, the cops should be getting involved. Someone should be getting involved, but they'll do it with all these peaceful protesters who are progressive. So, yes, it's nice that the ACLU stood up for the KKK, but you know who the fuck no one's standing up for? Everybody else. So can we all get our fair shake at freedom of speech, please? That'd be nice. So I just wanted to address that real quick. Speaking of the KKK and all this other shit, another thing I want to talk about is the fact that everybody keeps getting so upset over the fact that Trump didn't call out the white nationalists. Now, people were honestly breaking down. People were crying. People were stressed out. They were losing sleep over it. And with me, I knew that was coming. So I got shocked. I was shocked as hell. I was just talking to my friend about it. I'm like, why the fuck is everybody so surprised that he didn't... Are you kidding me? Do you know who this man is yet? So it's I don't even know if it's a lack of education, honestly. I don't think so. I don't think it's a lack of education on who Trump is as a person. Because, if you do understand who Trump is, he had a copy of a book of Hitler's speeches called My New Order in his bedside cabinet. Like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, really? I'm not surprised that he didn't call out the white nationalists if he keeps a book of Hitler's speeches. I doubt he's gonna call out the Nazis and the white nationalists, because he probably fucking agrees with them. I mean, I doubt that somebody's just walking around with books on how black people need to be slaughtered to death, and they read that shit before they go to bed at night, and they're like, no, I love black people and they should be treated fairly. I'm not gonna believe you. I'm just not. I don't know why, but I just don't think that I should really believe that. For some reason, I'm pretty sure you're lying. I don't know, but I don't think normal people put those two things together as one, and it makes sense. So, on the topic of this, I also want to address the fact that, I was looking at Secular Talk, and so Kyle, he reported on it too. Everybody reported on this shit, as I've already said a couple times now. So he said something where I was like, what the fuck? And he was addressing this commercial that the Democrats made, because like I said, they're pushing the agenda of vote for Democrats, not Republicans, which, good on him, he called that out too. But then he was talking about how Donald Trump, of course, doesn't agree with the KKK and stuff. Now, he's called them out multiple times. Okay, I have seen the videos on YouTube already. It makes perfect sense why a lot of people think he hasn't called out the KKK. I want you to go look up any video of people disavowing a group of people and listen to how they say it, and then listen to how he says it. And then you'll understand, if you have common sense, why that's not really something you should believe. And again, this guy has a fucking book of Hitler's speeches called My New Order. I'm pretty sure that I'm not really going to believe someone who has books like that. I'm not going to believe them if they're like, oh no, this is a very bad group. You can say that about anyone. You really disagree with someone if you say very bad. Who the fuck looks at the Bill Cosby scandal and say he was a very bad man? No one talks like that who actually, there's no disgust in his voice. All the pseudo-intellectuals will love that shit because they're like, well, he's emotionless, so he's smart. I'm not going to believe this guy just because he says, oh, they're very bad. That's all you have to say. And at one point, he didn't want to disavow him. Even Kyle said, oh, well, he didn't do it at one point, but then he did. But he keeps a fucking book in his damn cabinet of the same shit that they all like and follow. He's just disavowing the group. He's not disavowing what the fuck they stand for. I can say at least that much. Now here's the part where dumbasses want to tell me that I'm being biased because I'm speculating. So I'm just going to address this real quick, and I'll probably do a longer video on it at some point, because I see this like every single controversial video I make. You biased because you're speculating. Are you brain dead? Do you not know how the human language works? Not the English language, not the Chinese language, not the Indian language, not the French language, the human language, okay? Everyone speculates. I dare you to try to speak to 10 people today without speculating. I dare you to speak to one person. I dare you to say hello to somebody. I dare you to hear someone tell you hello and not speculate that shit. Okay, to simply debunk this bullshit, if I say hello, that's one way. If I say hello, that's another way. If I say hello, I just said hello 3 different ways without changing the fucking word. So, stop telling me that speculating is a bias. You can speculate objectively, and I shouldn't have to say I might be wrong every single time I speculate. That should be a given. If you don't think that there's a possibility you can be wrong when you're speculating something that you don't have proof of, then you're the idiot, not me. So if you're saying I'm biased for speculating, that means you can't speculate objectively and you're projecting. That's your own fucking problem. So before you give me that shit, I'm just going to address that now. And giving me that counter argument, like, if you look at that John Tron promo I made, some guy went over there from another video of mine, and he tried to argue with me, and he's like, I'm better at debating than John Tron. And he's like, and he kept saying, it was never cited that I said this. It was never cited that I said that. And a couple things he actually did say and he didn't even realize. But you telling me those words didn't come out of their mouth, so you can't prove it. Have you ever heard of a fucking lie? Like, this is the type of shit that depresses me about humanity. People don't understand lying and exaggerating the truth and white lies and all this other stuff. You don't understand? I can't, like, anyone, you can't prove that they feel that way about something, so you're biased for accusing them of it. Have you never heard of a lie in your goddamn life? Do you not understand the statistic of how often people lie? Go look it up. Do you not understand what speculation is? Do you not understand how to communicate? Don't you know that 99% of communication is everything but the words that we say? Look it up. 99% of communication is everything but the words that we say. So, for the rest of this video and the rest of my other videos, me trying to discern the truth from words that aren't coming out of someone's mouth is part of communication. 99%. 99. That means 1% has to do with the words that are coming out of your mouth. Please, for God's sake, fucking educate yourselves. So, moving on, because I'm almost done with this shit. The last thing I want to mention, because I forgot to mention it about the impeachment of Trump. Trump isn't doing anything. Like, he's not doing anything. And I think I did touch on it, but I want to stress the point that you have nothing to fear as long as you stand up against him. You have nothing to fear. And please do not tell me, what have you done? You don't know my life. And first of all, I've actually protested things before, okay? So I don't need you to talk to me about, like, I've seen firsthand the flaws and the benefits in protesting. I know how it works, okay? So stop trying to assume that you know something that you don't. But if you protest correctly, you can stand up against Trump. You can stand up against anyone who comes your way. You don't have to fear a president. The president doesn't have the power. You do. He's only going to do what you allow him to do. So going forward, you have nothing to fear as long as you keep fighting. It's the minute you give up when it's all over. So I hate what's happened in Charlottesville. I'm not happy to see people being hurt. But the saddest part about it is that people are not taking away the things that they should be taking away. Everyone's making this about who to blame and who to hate instead of how to fix the problem, how to fix our society, and how to better our society. And people are also forgetting that this wouldn't have ever happened if Hillary was president or if anyone else was president. Unless you can get a progressive in office, you need the exact opposite. You either need someone who's super progressive and is going to fight for your rights, who's going to help the general populace and encourage them to fight for their rights, or you need someone who's going to kick you up your fucking asshole to get you off your ass and fight for your own rights. You either need someone who's going to help you along the way or push you along the way. And if you bring in anyone in between that, no one's going to do anything. So we shouldn't be impeaching Trump because it's the best thing for us right now while we're waiting for the next presidential election. So thank you guys for watching. You can share your thoughts. And a quick update to all my subscribers. I'm going to be continuing to upload videos twice a week. I've been doing that for like 3 weeks now. I'm going to try to keep that up to at least put up 2 videos a week, because I kind of have the equipment to do it now. And my recorder still keeps fucking crashing, so I hope that it actually records all this shit so I can edit it. One day I'll get a better computer. So since I kind of have the ability to do so, I'm gonna make sure that I put up 2 videos a week at least. I really want to push that. So thank you for all your support, and I'll see you guys next time.